All right, let's take a look at the YouTubes. See if we can get this stream going. Don't see it yet. Says we've got a stream, but nothing's showing up there. Check 111. Yeah, got audio. Hey YouTube, where's my video? There it is. All right. All right, and we've got audio. That's good. This is positive. These are positive things. All right, so the YouTubes is live and in full effect. Let's get the ye old Discord up and running so I can monitor your comments, questions as we go through. Making sure CouchBot is firing. Hope you're doing well where you are. It's a busy morning. Let's see here. Oh, and goodness, I just really messed that up. I should probably undo that. There we go. There, I undid that. Let's see here. We've got Eve, got Bren, Ricardo, Abby, Eddie, Abraham. Wow, feedback loop is thick today. So super excited to have you along. Just giving CouchBot one more minute to kind of get in alignment with us. Do have a lot of, it's kind of amazing. It's almost like there's a lot of submissions, and then everybody's got like 2 or 3 submissions each. So I am pretty excited to see exactly how this works out today. And there we go. CouchBot has fired, and we are going to get this underway. Greetings, one and all. Chris Courtney here. New Pragmatic. It's time for the feedback loop. The thickest feedback loop ever. Eve's here, Bren's here, Ricardo's here, Abby's here, Eddie's here, Abraham's here, and everybody's got 2 or 3 things each. So without further ado, let's blast into this, because otherwise we're going to be here for like 5 hours. Okay, we're going to start here with Eve's user stories for the First Teacher project. And I really do like the fact that Eve has taken the time to weave in the scenarios with each of the user stories. So she, and we've seen this before, where when the user story, when we're just writing user stories and we're kind of bleeding off into one area or another, and we're not really thinking and focusing on that particular set of stories, how they kind of work together, we can get very disoriented very quickly. If I'm just like banging out user stories and I kind of move in this direction and I move in that direction, I'm not specifically talking to Abby right now, but I am talking about her situation that she recently went through. What you'll find is that you can get lost, and you can find yourself like, do I have enough stories here? Are these good user stories? Have I buttoned up all the sides of this, or do I need more? And in most cases, I would say that when you're writing to a scenario, you've given yourself some parameters to begin measuring what your progress is like. The question I always have with this is, if I don't see more than one user involved in that scenario, that's when I begin to question whether I've gone far enough. Because in most cases, there's a couple of users, particularly in this case, where Eve has, you've got donors, volunteers, you've got staff members, you've got these different personas involved, and typically speaking, more than one's going to be involved. So, for instance, donating to the organization. I want to make a donation. I want to see the forms of payment. As somebody from First Teacher, I want the ability to populate the donations with a set amount, because I know that that converts at a higher rate. So that would be one of the things that I would definitely want to put in here as a user story, because your job at that point isn't just to make sure that they can set something at a particular amount, but it's also to go force them to make that decision so that you can input that into the platform. Um, these set amounts, it's something we discovered back in '08 with Obama. When you put like, would you like to make a 5, 10, 25, $50 donation or other, it converts faster because the people, they don't have to think about it. It's like, yeah, give me the 25 one, or give me the 50. Um, when you just have a blank box there, there's this apprehension about whether I want to move forward or not. Because you're asking them to make a decision. When it's just like click the box and you go, they're more likely to donate. As far as the volunteer goes, I want to sign up and I want to see the events. If somebody volunteers as somebody from First Teacher, I need to collect certain bits of information. Some of that is just so I can contact them. But with a teacher sort of thing, this is I don't know the exact ins and outs of First Teacher, but if they interact with school kids, a lot of people who volunteer, and this has been my experience, if you do any sort of volunteering with schools, a lot of schools have to run a background check. So you need to get the right information into the form so that First Teacher can run an effective background check. So you need to make sure you need to go to First Teacher and go, okay, so what do I need to collect here so you can do what you need to do before you actually accept these people as volunteers into the organization. So there's a bit of work there that I would keep an eye out for. And then when somebody does sign up as a member of the organization, I want to be notified. I want to be notified that there is somebody knocking on the door saying they are going to participate. I don't necessarily need to know about every donation that comes in, because donations don't require further work. But as a staff member, I want a notification on when somebody has said, "Hey, I want to do the thing." So that said, I really do like I like how you're bucketing. I just think that these could expand a bit based on just simple background stuff that I'm aware of from doing similar work. Let's come over here to Figma real quick. So Eve, you've done this is kind of interesting. You've done this user story priority guide user flow mashup thing. And I really like it. Obviously, like the homepage as it is right now, you can kind of see what it's going to be. You'll still need to do a priority guide to flesh that out, because there's it's more than just a series of buttons on that page. But I do like the fact that you've gone through and you've already kind of shown them. You're showing them, hey, here's how I see the overall site architecture setting up. And I'm sure some of this is based on their current site, but other parts, as we know from going through initially and looking at their donation flow, other parts are really being readdressed here to elevate certain considerations, like, hey, how do I make a donation? Because as we know, Eve, from our initial work here, they had a real problem with just like getting donations to work. I also want to point out Eve is using the Open Autoflow plugin, and Open Autoflow is pretty amazing. If I just create a rectangle here, just for grins, and we open the Open Autoflow plugin, connecting these shapes could not be easier. Like, you just select one, select the other, and it like automatically draws that. So the one thing that Open Autoflow does that Autoflow doesn't do is it doesn't if you adjust this, like if I adjust this shape, it's not gonna move that line. So that's one thing that it won't do. But I do like the fact that if I get my shapes in here and I'm pretty set with where things are going to be, it will automatically draw that line. So super cool plugin. Glad to see you using it. And with that said, let's hop over here to Bryn. Bryn, this is a update on exercise 2 for color accessibility, and this is exactly what I was talking about yesterday. Your first cut at this, you just kind of came and put a darker background block on this area, and that was a problem because while it met the accessibility solution, it wasn't something that you would want to ship. Now, and it blows my mind that this awesome cat cardboard box thing would even have a site that would have accessibility problems like that. The type was white on that background. It was just like kind of blew my mind. But now it's fixed. So good job there. Down here, there's a couple of things that I'm not gonna beat this horse any further. You are right in that pure white text on a dark background can be difficult to look at for a period of time. But there's two things that I want to keep in your mind. One option here is just to make this text bold, or to make it semi-bold, something other than just the regular weight, so that it can display clearer. The other thing is an understanding that red on a dark background, if you have any sort of color blindness, this just goes straight to black. Like for engineering leads, wouldn't even be viewable. So I want to highly recommend that if you're using red, don't use black, and if you're using black, don't use red. It's a very black and red is a very powerful color combination. It's used in a lot of propaganda. But there's also a reason why white and red work really well together, and it's because when you get to the saturation point, red is very close to black. So I would switch this to white. This for engineering leads, or the off-white that you're using, whatever you decide you want to use, that's fine. But sticking with the red here will create problems. So just keep that in mind. That's something I had to learn the hard way, because I worked at a publication where our color scheme was red, black, and white. And if you had those three things apart, that was fine. But if you ever layered the red onto the black, in text particularly, it always had problems. So that said, not a big deal. I just wanted to take a minute to mention that. Thank you for tweaking that. And now let's come over here to color for navigation, another update from yesterday. And I really think that this is much better. You've taken the time to go through and adjust these, and the interesting thing here is now if I got a notification and it turned green or turned purple or some other color, it would make sense. It's like, oh, that's now active. And you could totally come back and use the green, because the green's representing this active state. Over here you went with white, and that's very much the logical solution there. You could have gone in and done something with these backgrounds. You could have went with like a color like that. You could have went with a gray and no stroke, something like that as well. So I just wanted to point out that there were a couple of options available to you. It doesn't have to all be just white outlines. I also wanted to point out what the issue here was with the image was. Right now the image is set to multiply. If I copy that image and select this frame and paste it in, that did not work as well as I thought it was going to work. Let's get in here. Okay, so we've got the image. I've copied the image. Okay, so you can see the image is there. If I turn it to normal and get it to snap in place, there it's fine. So the image, the problem that I think you were having is that because it was multiplying down, um, it was giving you a problem. And I can see the other image right there, and it's the same thing where it's just like if you switch it to normal, it's fine, it's back. So those images were there, or at least that one was. This one could have gotten deleted along the way. Um, One thing I really do like about Figma is that if you move these things around, they can snap back into place relatively easy. So I'm not too not too too worried about that sort of stuff. Um, just for future reference as you're working through these projects. And circling back to this, I got to be honest with you. You talked about dominant and supporting, and you kind of had some commentary, and I said action. I think that this is one of those issues where there's not a really definitive right answer. In many ways, I think that this is the dominant color, and this button should be the vibrant blue to indicate, oh, hey, this is the thing you want to click on. However, the question then becomes, well, if I can click on this, can I click on that? Can I click on this thing right here? And this is something that you see a lot. However, there's a lot of platforms that will use the dominant color as button iconography or for triggers and buttons and links and things all throughout their site. YouTube comes to mind. They've got the red, and the red, the red has its own issues with the arrangement with the assignment of danger or error, and YouTube uses it everywhere. So I think this is one of those situations where, like, if you wanted to pick up the blue and actually use it here, I'd be down with it. But when I'm talking about dominant and action, I'm typically talking about what you're acting on. But in this particular case, what you're acting on is, these two things are fighting with each other, and they've decided to go with this darker, which kind of makes sense. But I think that this more vibrant blue would be an adequate action color. Now, one thing you also mentioned here, like in your comments, and I was pulling this up, and I was actually trying to go through here. You mentioned here the box within a box and the use of the yellow. One thing that I kind of like about what they're doing here is the box within a box here is really indicating that, okay, there's a carousel, and you can like rotate through these things. Where if it wasn't within a box and it just kind of had this floating underneath it, I don't necessarily know if I would pick up on that as fast. Same thing here, and it seems like this is a something they're doing all the way through. And they're doing a lot of steps as well. So these cards are pretty consistent in their usage, but I don't mind the box within the box so much here, because it's meant to indicate it's indicating that there's other activity in this particular instance. Do I want to always put a box inside of a box? No. Particularly if it's an image, I don't want to do anything like this. But here they're using it for some sort of graphical display, so I'm kind of okay with it because they're trying to push that motif forward. Okay, so flows to wireframes. So now we're over here checking out Ricardo, and yeah, I understand you're feeling your way through this. Iteration. Oh, sorry, that's not Ricardo. Iterations do matter here, though, Ricardo. So and what you've got here is, this flow that you're working through here, your wireframes are a further iteration of what's happening, and I appreciate the fact that you're going through and you're using the type as you're building out your flow. You're kind of using this type to guide where the next screen is going. We'll discuss this sort of usage of gray when we get into colors and forms, um, you know, would you want to utilize, and would is this active? Is this active? Is it not active? Um, the the box within a box thing, we kind of just talked about that. Also, you you've got pretty big typography here. Um, there's my daughter's got teachers that their name definitely wouldn't fit in that box, and of course this is mobile, but I do think that from a flow perspective, like, okay, so come in, I'm going to collaborate, I'm going to ask a question, so I click here, then I select the teacher that question is for, or I can search for the teacher. This search would typically be higher up, um, and then I indicate what type of question I have, and then if I selected verbal question, and I'm doing that, I know that because there's this flow here. It sends a notification to the teacher, and I get a confirmation that this is the confirmation message that tells me that teacher has been notified, and then I can return to the menu, and it pops me back basically over here. If I come down and I say, okay, now I want to write a question. This is where, like in your flow, you're going to get a little keyboard, and you need to think about, like, okay, so what happens here so that I can type, and then this is the return or confirm. I'm not sure what the X is about. And then as we come down, let's come over here, and then this is again, you're confirming that the teacher has been notified. Here, this looks like, oh, okay, so here I guess you're adding an attachment, and you're getting some sort of pop up over it. So for mobile, I don't think you would necessarily have this sort of box inside of a box motif. It would probably just be wider. Here you're selecting the platform. So these are files on your device. If you want to attach go to a, I can select this to attach a file, or I can choose cloud drive. I guess the question here would be, where is the where is the file located at? If it's located in the cloud, you go through this setup, and then you can select the cloud file, and then current attachments. So it makes sense. The flow makes sense. There are tweaks, but this is your first wireframe, so I think it's pretty good in that I can see how you would get to this flow based on this set of wireframes based on the user flow that you created. So this is a good first step. Obviously, there's nothing refined or finished about this, but you now have something that you can sit down with other members of your team and discuss, which is impossible if you haven't created the wireframes. Like flows you can walk through, but there's so many more questions, and the user stories allow you to create the flows, and the flows allow you to create the wireframes. All right, we're trying to, you probably couldn't just create this set of wireframes from the user stories alone. There had to be that intermediate step, because you had a lot of different paths to consider. So that said, I do think that this is a successful step forward. The question now is, do you want to go and do another flow? Do you want to go back and circle back to adding the content that's going to help you grease the gears with microcopy as you go through? That there's some directional decision making that needs to be made here. So Abby, we're gonna come back over here for Abby. Abby has some very robust user flows. And user flows, and when I say robust, like Abby, like I'm going to keep zooming out, and like I'm still not quite sure if I'm seeing all the user flows that Abby has created. Um, the big thing to realize is that if you find yourself going between round one and round two and round three of user flows, that isn't a bad thing. In fact, I almost always go through at least 2-3 rounds of user flows before I arrive at a final answer. And Ricardo's user flows that he was showing, those were not the first iteration. Ricardo did a couple of iterations of his user flows. So iterations really matter, and I think they matter most in user flows, because if you miss something in the user flow, it becomes really hard to do the wireframe, because when you get into the wireframe, there's no way to fully see, okay, where is this supposed to go? So I understand that, like, you'll find yourself questioning, am I going down the right path, or am I going down the wrong path? That's exactly the right question to have, Abby. Like, if you're not having that question, I'm more concerned then. Okay. Now, as far as what you have here, like, this is update location, and previously we were coming through, and it's like, okay, so you go into your profile, and there's location, you open the settings, and you view settings, and you location preferences, and you edit location, then you type in a zip code, and you get selected locations. That was confusing. Okay, so when you're reading through your flows, the thing that you definitely want to do is you want to pay close attention to, is this a logical solution that I would use in have I ever used this method? And in some ways, yes, you have. Like, if you were picking up a pizza, for instance, you would type in your zip code, and it would tell you the nearest places where you could go. But you typically wouldn't use this flow to update your location. Your location, you would want to go through and say, okay, here's my current locations. I'm going to edit or add. Here you select edit, and then you input your new address. Here you select add, and you get a whole new form, and you input that address. And I think input should be update address details, something like that, because the idea of input says nothing is there currently. And when I think of editing, when I get to the form, something's already there, and I need to go through and determine what it should be changed to. It shouldn't just insert, and it shouldn't, if I hit edit, it shouldn't just automatically erase what was already there. Maybe I've got the wrong zip code. Maybe I've I didn't add a unit number. There's all sorts of scenarios where you would need to update an address. But when you add a new one, get the whole new form. You select save, and then you can view the updated list. Like, that makes sense. That is so much better than where you were yesterday, where it was just kind of like a one-way train, and then the one-way train where it ended up wasn't somewhere that matched the reality for most users. So here we're going to search for a meal and quick add to cart. So there's two user stories really happening here. Search for meal, part one, quick add to cart. Part of me wonders, like, should this really be two user stories, two shorter user stories? And in being two shorter user stories, they're frankly easier to build. Okay? So keep that in mind as you're when you use and, it's like, oh, I'm making this longer than it has to be. I'm now chaining tasks together, and I should be doing these as smaller things so that they don't feel like they go on forever. But let's go with this. Log in, view homepage, search bar, type what you're looking for, hit enter. Okay, so you get an error page when the results. Search, scroll. So here I've gotten something back. I'm going to scroll through those options. I'm going to locate the meal I'm wanting, locate the quick add plus sign, select that, view quantity 1, select plus to add more meals. So sounds like there's like a plus minus thing on here. Add to cart, view the cart. So here it just it's just slightly more robust. So here I get an error page. I select search again, and then I can type. It takes me back. So there's a little loop. It just doesn't dump me off on a don't know what you're doing. Here, same thing. Really, these are one for one, except now instead of kind of dumping me off in this wasteland of I can add meals and whatnot, put me back in the cart. So that makes sense. And this really is just a completion of the thought, because the question is when you go off the side, it's like, okay, where do I go next? And a lot of people that you're working with, just like you as a designer are having to work on multiple projects, your dev team, your project managers, they're all working on other projects too. So when they come in, they don't necessarily know where this should go. So it's helpful that little loop around. That's going to help somebody. Okay. Now this user story right here got way more robust, and this is checkout. So checkout was like a straight line before, and now it is crazy busy. So I'm just going to fast forward to cart, and here I'm going to select the order, and I get a view error pop up, meal no longer available. Interesting. All right, so this is like I select the order, and if that meal is out of stock, it says select I can add a new meal or I can remove the meal. I can go through and view options, or I can just remove the meal and save it. I get the confirmation pop up. Here's what you've ordered. Then I go into locate, locate confirm order button. Select confirm order, view order, locate confirm order button. Locate edit button for section needing update. Select edit for delivery address, payment, delivery time. Select save, view updated, and all confirmation pop-up info. Locate confirm button, confirm order. Okay, so I'm not sure what's going on with locate. Um, so here's my order. I've got a confirmation pop up that tells me prices and delivery preferences, and then I get locate. I understand everything up to I got the confirmation pop up. Here's what I've selected. It seems like I should either be able to confirm, like one side of this is confirm or edit, and then if I edit, I go down to one of these options. But if I confirm, I just I go over here. So maybe this word is maybe this is just confirm or edit. So and maybe locate's just the wrong word here. Okay, and this is the thing that I'm trying to look out for as we go through these, Abby, is I want to make sure that when a member of your team hits these, that they make sense. And in just the usage of the word locate could throw them off. Like, why are we doing location here? We just got the confirmation page. If we need to edit something and one of those things is location, that makes sense. But and it says locate confirm order. I think it should just be select confirm order, select edit. Like, drop this out, and maybe this is confirm or edit, and then like select confirm, select edit. So just a little clarity on areas like that. And that's what I would really encourage you to, you know, there are other options here. Go through these flows and make sure that the language that's being used is on target. And I see like a lot of, I see a similar shape being used here. Okay, so this is recommendation, view row of 4 offerings, locate arrow, select arrow, no arrow to view, view 4 more offerings, view first set of offerings. So this is like, you're talking about a carousel basically. Like, here are my recommendations, and I'm gonna pull through, and I can see it. Okay, you've described it in such a way that I can actually see, what's happening here in the interface. It makes sense. Okay. So overall, the one thing I want to remind us is that this isn't about making these more complex. It's about adding clarity to what we're trying to do, and making sure that our coworkers and the other members of our team and our stakeholders all are on the same page with us. And that's why I actually want to. I don't want to I do not want to pack together user stories. If I could tell two users, if I could break a user story apart and it becomes 2 different flows, fine. If I have one gigantic user flow, I'm afraid I'm going to lose people along the way. Okay, so what are the discrete parts of this so that people can follow along? And if you're using the word "and" anywhere, that's a hint that maybe I'm overbuilding here. All right, Eddie. Let's come back over here to Eddie, and Eddie is on the hierarchy exercise. And I want to start over here. There's a couple of things that I want to point out. Eddie's reworking some of this. First thing is with the images. I think you've done a good job aligning these items. However, there's always going to be situations where you need the space. So just keep aware that the grid can be helpful. And then there's this idea of crop, okay? And there's one image here that has really been beaten up. This image right here, just, you don't get a sense of what's really happening here. All right, when we crop things too tightly, you lose what the photo really is showing you. Like I could barely see the bridge. I couldn't see the sky. Like I'd really want to stay away from the crop that you had here. This is another situation where space is our friend. It's not a bad thing. And this, Eddie, the one thing I'll mention here is, you're coming in to design fresh. You're new. This is not, a lot of stuff that I'm saying to you, I completely understand. If you're like, whoa, Chris, never heard that before, and that's fine. That's totally fine. There's a lot that, I'm sure is brand new. There's a lot of people in the program, a lot of these methods are not something that they've encountered before themselves. But when it comes to crop, I would stay away from the extreme crop where possible, because you're probably taking enough context out of the image to change the ability for people to see what's really going on. Past that, part 2 here, I wanted to have a conversation because we haven't gotten into typography. And here you're doing a lot of things with typography that are causing problems. And you're basically I'm going to give you a 2 for here today, because we're going to be hinting at why these are bad ideas as far as some of the typographical things that you've done here. But this is not a type exercise. I want to make that perfectly clear. So emphasis top. Let's start here. First of all, anytime you're centering type, you're asking the reader to bounce their eye around. And okay, so I'm going to start here, and then I'm going to start here, and then I'm going to start here, 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 here. My eye has had to go to 6 different locations to read like 20 words. It's not ideal. Okay. Anytime you center type, like tell me more, that's centered. Great, awesome, that's fine. But the rest of this, I don't want to see it centered. Um, it it's a rookie move to center a large amount of type. Okay, and that means that when we come over here, we're looking at a real rookie move. Here, the eye is being asked to move around the entire time, all the way down. All right, it makes everything harder to read. If I just do this, this immediately becomes easier to read. Immediately. All right. Same thing here, though. If we change the arrangement here, and even this, I'd bring it over. Just easier to read. Easier. And then there is the issue of space. Like, this becomes more difficult to read because everything is just crammed together. This is a spacing exercise, okay? And I understand if let's just make this stuff go down the page and give this room to breathe. And not just room over here, I want room over here too. Okay? Now I understand that, like, we've gone in and we've got this big image, but this image also doesn't have to be that tight. There's a lot here that we can lean on to shift that focus right over here. Yes, can we come in here and bring these items back in? Yeah, I guess. Yeah, we totally do that. That's fine. Do we have to? Maybe. What I'm mostly concerned about is, am I giving this room to breathe? All right. And again, I just centered type. Just lock that in your head. Centered type. Should I center it? Probably not. Probably not. Not most of the time, no. Centered type, bad idea most of the time. The question then becomes, okay, well, what about I know about left align. I know there's a affinity to left align. What about right aligned? Right aligned is just as hard to read as centered type. There are times when I think it's okay to use it. I was working with Luigi on a project yesterday, and there was a back and forth going on with the typography, and I started to right align some type to create an edge for the unit. Here there isn't the edge. If I was creating an edge for this unit, the edge is over here. Like, the edge is over here. Like, the edge is not here. Edge is over here. So with that said, if the edge is over there, why would I right align it? And if anything, I want to create, again, space for this headline. I want to get this out of here a bit. And now this has room to breathe. Now, does it have too much room to breathe? Well, maybe just a tad, but that's not the worst thing in the world. Okay? Does this image need to be right there on the grid? Does it, could it be like this? Possibly. It could also be, frankly, like this. Is this shape poorly cropped for what it's showing? And the answer is probably yeah. If we really look at this, that's a much better crop for somebody who's working remotely. Because I like to see the phone or tablet or whatever she has, and I don't get that here. I get that here, but again, this is one of those situations where everything's center aligned. So, from where we started at to where we ended up, one of the big things that I hope comes across is like, oh wow, center alignment not so good. Maybe we should avoid that. Okay, and if that's the big ta-da from this, fantastic. Does that mean that I can't ever center align things? No, not at all. Not at all. And I realize that that's like, well, that's not very satisfying. Well, design. If everything is always one thing, then it's gonna like disappear. I'm not even gonna see it. It's not gonna draw any attention. So there are times where centering is fine. I wouldn't have done it here though. Okay, and I wouldn't have done everything center aligned either. I would have picked a shot. And right now, when you do everything, basically, I'm just gonna throw it all the way back the other direction. And with that said, let's go back over here. Abraham. Abraham's going to wrap us up here today. And he's got this question. He's really drilling down here. Now, we've got this idea of handled events and patient minutes. And the question is, is there a better way to chart this? And my question for you, Abraham, is twofold. One, are these the right metrics to chart? Can you chart them differently? Sure. My worry when I get into charting things on a patient diagram, for instance, is, am I highlighting the wrong metrics? Is there something about the metrics that I'm showing that could degrade patient care? For instance, oh hey, I handled 87 events, and in terms of patient meeting minutes, I'm still trailing the team, and I'm unclear. Like, should this be further over, or like something is weird here because this is shy of the other one by a third. But so do I need to spend more time with each patient so my minutes can go up? Is that the right thing to do? Should how and the thing with a chart or any display that you're pulling out is, how is this impacting the behavior of the person that's viewing it? Can I predict what this is going to change in the organization? And if I can't, I don't necessarily know if I want to put the chart out there. If I can, and it's a positive, then great. One thing I would do is I would always utilize a whole number. Like here, this is 87. So if this person went to 90, like the chart's still just 100% green. So why not instead make this chart based on 100 so that everybody has a target to aim for? And then if somebody gets to 100, well, then the chart moves to 125. If the chart gets to 125, then the chart moves to 150. But it's always positioned just beyond 100% unless it is possible to hit 100%. And right here, I can't tell whether, but based on what you're showing here, if this is something where you can hit 100%. It doesn't look like it. So for me, I'm always going to want to give them a target that's just outside, so that I'm not if you hit 90, great, the chart moved. Right now, if they hit 90, the chart wouldn't move at all because it's just like you're peaked. You can't go any higher. Oh wow, you went higher. Well, you're still peaked. Okay, so part of it is scale, but the bigger part, the thing that I think is way more important is this a vanity metric? Am I potentially hurting the organization by pulling these numbers out? And is this going to motivate an undesirable action out of the staff? Okay? All right, ladies and gentlemen, that is going to wrap it up for today's edition of the Feedback Loop. Wow, a lot of work here today. Eddie, Abraham, Abby, Ricardo, Bren, Eve. somehow we made it through it. All right. So if you've got questions, if you've got comments, jump into Discord, drop them in. I'm excited to see all of your work. It's always exciting to get in here in the morning and see everything that everybody's working on. Tomorrow we'll be back same time, same place, and I look forward to seeing all of you here again soon. Take care.